Night at the Twin Star Guild building. Lady Lee was in her office, shouting into her phone about her arranged marriage. Her father had chosen a rich, old man for her, but she didn't want to marry him. She wanted to decide who to marry, which is why she left home. Frustrated, she ended the call. Her bodyguard asked if she was okay. Lady Lee, still angry, snapped that she was not. She paced the room, thinking about the terrible meeting with the bald man her father had set up, initially mistaking him for someone else. The bodyguard sympathized, saying even the ultra-rich have problems. Lady Lee appreciated the support and felt guilty for keeping her bodyguard busy. She told her bodyguard to rest, but the bodyguard insisted on staying, saying it was her duty to protect Lady Lee until she inherited the Twin Star Group. Determined to be independent, Lady Lee talked about making her own money through legal match predictions. The bodyguard warned that while it might be legal, it wasn't reliable, reminding her of past losses. Confidently, Lady Lee said she would succeed this time by betting on the Korea-Japan match. Despite most people believing Japan would win, Lady Lee was sure of her choice, driven by her desire to control her own life. Suddenly, Lady Lee's phone buzzed with a message from Jihan. Her face turned red as she read it, puzzled by the late hour. Her shock grew as she saw the contents. At a restaurant in Korea, Jihan and football player Diego were enjoying Korean beef. Diego, tasting the meat for the first time, commented on its likely expense. Jihan encouraged him to order anything he wanted. Diego chose wine, and his face lit up as he enjoyed it, reflecting on his fall from stardom due to BattleNet, which led to his family leaving him. Impressed by Diego's fluency in Korean, Jihan listened as Diego shifted the conversation to his future. Diego mentioned that his gift required soccer ball-shaped equipment, showing an SSS rank status of God of Soccer, but admitted his lack of talent as a mage and poor magic power stat. Jihan handed him Arachne's Orb, a B-rank magic item made of elastic spider silk, perfect for Diego's gift. Surprised by its value, Diego hesitated, but Jihan insisted, offering financial support as well. Diego, stunned, asked why. Jihan explained he wanted Diego to join his guild, which he planned to form after being promoted to silver level. Diego pointed out the significant financial requirements, but Jihan confidently showed his phone, indicating he would have enough soon. Seeing Jihan's bet on the Korean team against Japan, Diego thought he had lost his mind. Back at the Twin Star Guild building, Lady Lee stared at her phone, reading Jihan's match prediction: 1 victory and 3 losses for Korea. She doubted the prediction, knowing no one believed Korea could win against the Sword King. As the match began, the Sword King stood ready with his dual swords, and the crowd outside cheered for the players. When Jihan showed his betting slip to the Korean team, Diego was shocked and surprised. "How can Korea win the match?" he asked Jihan, his eyes wide with disbelief. Diego wasn't criticizing the Korean team, but rather the fact that the Japanese team had Sword King. He explained that Sword King was an absolute powerhouse who could single-handedly overwhelm an entire team. Having someone like him on the opposing team seemed like a huge disadvantage. Jihan understood Diego's concerns and decided to show him the match on TV. "Sometimes you have to see it to believe it," he said as they watched together. In the match, both the Japanese and Korean teams had 4 players each. The goal was simple: defeat all enemy opponents. Overall victory would be determined by whichever team won 3 out of 5 rounds. Sword King, a formidable figure, tried to rally his Japanese teammates to follow his lead. However, they refused to listen, resenting Sword King for taking the place of their friend Seiji on the team. When Sword King approached them, they ignored him, causing tension to rise. Suddenly, the Korean team launched an unexpected attack on Sword King using divine punishment. Both the Japanese and Korean teams were shocked by this turn of events. Despite being hit, Sword King retaliated, nearly defeating the Korean team. But before he could finish them off, he made a startling decision. In a desperate attempt to make his teammates realize the importance of unity and following his lead, Sword King took his own life. It was a shocking and tragic end to the match, leaving both teams stunned and uncertain of what would happen next. The crowd watching the game was stunned by what they saw. Even Diego, watching alongside Jihan, was taken aback. He turned to Jihan, his eyes wide with surprise, demanding to know how Jihan knew about it. Jihan couldn't explain. It was a memory from his past life, something he couldn't easily share, even though the outcome was the same. In the first game, the Korean team systematically defeated each member of the Japanese team, securing a victory for Korea. Lee Jinwook emerged as the MVP, delivering the final blow to Sword King. In the tunnel afterward, tensions ran high among the Japanese team. They blamed Sword King for their loss, angered by his decision to take his own life. Sword King, unfazed by their anger, criticized them for their lack of professionalism. He made it clear that he wouldn't stay on the team if they didn't respect his leadership. The Japanese team faced a tough choice. Either accept Sword King's authority and have a chance to win, or reject him and face certain defeat. As the second match began, the Korean team members were unsure of what to expect from Sword King. Would he take his own life again? But Sword King stood firm on the battlefield, emanating an aura of determination. The atmosphere changed completely. Sensing the danger, the Korean team leader urged his members to stay alert. But before they could react, Sword King swiftly struck down two Korean team members with a single stroke. Everyone, including Jihan, was shocked by the sudden and unexpected attack. The game had taken an unexpected turn, leaving everyone stunned and unsure of what would happen next. Sword King slashed vertically, cutting down the Korean captain. The Korean spectators watched in fear, while the Japanese fans celebrated, chanting Sword King's name. With just two attacks, Sword King Ryu Hee-ai had defeated the South Korean team, evening the score to 1-1. The fourth round began. The Japanese team had won the third round, making the score 2-1 in their favor. The Korean team member ran toward Sword King, determined to put up a fight this time. In the third round, Sword King had defeated all four Korean members in a one-sided match that was hard to watch. Now, the Korean captain charged at him again, ordering his teammates to keep the pressure on and not give Sword King a chance to counterattack. One Korean member used magic to bind Sword King's hands. Seeing this, the Korean captain and others launched their attacks. But Sword King defended himself with telekinesis, moving his sword despite his bound hands. The Korean captain was shocked to see him move like that. Sword King broke the chains holding him and swiftly killed the Korean captain with a single slash. The Korean support mage was stunned, and before he could react, Sword King slashed his throat, ending the match. Two other Korean players tried shooting arrows and casting magic at Sword King. But the Korean archer was quickly killed by a Japanese player, and the remaining Koreans, too focused on Sword King, forgot about the other Japanese players. Suddenly, the Japanese archer was surprised to see Sword King appear mid-air behind the Korean player, using the sword flight technique to fly. The Korean player mocked Sword King, saying he only practiced looking cool since moving to Japan, but admitted that the flying sword technique was impressive. Sword King retorted, "If your skills were as good as your talking, you wouldn't be struggling like this." Enraged, the Korean player unleashed a powerful lightning spell, spreading across the battlefield and targeting Sword King. But Sword King, wielding both swords, tested a new technique. He threw his large golden sword at the Korean player, causing a massive explosion that shocked the spectators. The ground was left with a huge crater, demonstrating the power of Sword King's attack. The match ended with Japan winning 3-1. On TV, Jihan and Diego watched in astonishment. Diego was amazed by how accurately Jihan had predicted the outcome. "How did you know?" Diego asked, eyes wide. I saw it in a dream, Jihan replied with a smile. Diego, still in disbelief, asked how much Jihan had won. Jihan responded that he had won quite a bit. While earning a mountain of money was satisfying, Jihan didn't expect Sword King's final move to be so powerful. Sword King was stronger than Jihan remembered. At this rate, Jihan realized he might not be able to defeat Sword King. Even his nameless divine arts might not be enough. After all, Sword King had an SSS rank gift, Twin Sword Peak. But Jihan was determined. No matter how strong Sword King became, Jihan vowed to become even stronger. Their paths would cross again soon enough.